Okay, so I didn't make a proper intro for this video, but yeah. I have nothing else to say. Here are some Persona 5 fanfics. A series of comics and character concepts designed by Twitter artist ScruffyTurtles, the Adult Confidant AU takes place in a reality where the core cast and adult confidants of Persona 5 are age-switched and turns the supporting cast into the protagonists of the story, specifically the adults. It was released in comic form on February 27, 2020 via Webtoons. It's one of the most well-known AUs within the Persona fanfic community. While the story doesn't retain the same art as the original source material, it has a very distinctive and recognizable art style. There are plenty of AU comics based on Persona 5, but I want to keep my attention on this one specifically since most comics are often portrayed in more shipped-based stories. Seeing all the adult characters in a much younger and more active role is quite an ingenious idea. After all, most of the adult characters are basically old versions of the original Phantom Thieves in some capacity. Sojiro in this story is this universe's Joker. Sainijima replaces her sister Makoto, and the rebel hothead that was Ryuji Sakamoto takes a backseat to the more badass and intimidating Munehisa Iwai. If you want another look into the world of Persona 5 with an entirely new cast of Phantom Thieves, then check out Adult Confidant AU in the link below. What If the Stars and Us focuses on a what-if scenario that is based around a scrapped concept that almost made it into the final game. This sees our main protagonist under the care of Sainijima. The events play similar to the original P5, but with the addition of Sai being the caretaker rather than Sojiro, the story ultimately has a different narrative with its attention to detail. Written by SkyRig and originally published under a different name, it was changed due to the fact that the author wanted to rid the original due to its poor grammar and slow pacing. The events of Royal do not take place in this reality, so there's no Kasumi or Dr. Maruki, but again, it's very similar to the original story, the difference being Sai being the main caretaker. In regard to the status of the story, it only has 2 chapters at the time of this video's release, and none has been updated since. This story depicts a world where the Phantom Thieves gained another member to the team, one that many Persona fans have probably met before. Meet Ken Amada, a former member of SEES from Persona 3. Now a teenager, Ken is sent by the Shadow Operatives to investigate the Phantom Thieves who are operating in Tokyo. This causes him to become a member of the Phantom Thieves, going under the alias Ace. The fanfic was written by eiranerys and is probably the most developed works in this video as it sprung out in various sequels, one-shots, and spin-offs. There are a lot of interesting and new ideas that are thrown into this AU, such as characters finding out that they're related to one another, and the fact that the characters from P3 get involved with this story in a very major way that honestly makes me question why they hadn't intervened at all throughout the original P5 story. Not like I wanted them to, because of course this is the story revolving around the Phantom Thieves, but because the Shadow Ops base their missions on Persona-related events. This fanfic kind of answers my question. What's even more interesting, and light spoilers, but in this fanfic, Ken and Makoto have a thing with one another, and I think it works to its advantage given if you're familiar with each of the characters' backstories. Honestly, I can make an entire video talking about this fanfic alone, but I'll just leave it here. Now we're getting into the weirder side of Persona fanfiction. Basically, this fanfic depicts a reality in which the world of Persona was inspired and based around, well, Spider-Man out of all characters. The story takes heavy inspiration from Into the Spider-Verse, the PlayStation Spider-Man game, and various other comic book stories. After the mysterious murder of Yu Narukami, this universe's Peter Parker, and the main protag of P4, Ren Amaria takes up the mantle of the new Spider-Man, basically being that universe's Miles Morales. Almost every character in this universe is a character counterpart to some degree. For example, Principal Kobayakawa is this universe's Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, Rise is Mary Jane Watson, Adachi is Green Goblin, Akechi gets bonded with the symbiote and becomes Carnage, and the list goes on. As a Marvel fan, this fanfic is pretty interesting. Although I feel like the narrative would fit more with the lore of Batman. I think the Spider-Man concept does its favor, and hell, the creator of this fanfic, ASDFO789, has pretty good knowledge of the Spider-Man mythos outside of the movies and video games. Even the 90s cartoon is a main inspiration for this fanfic. Definitely check this one out if you're a Spider-Man fan. Written by PsyHunter29, Futaba's Unveiling tells the story of Futaba Sakura, and while this story may not be an alternate universe tale, it does have some minor alterations. But the reason why I wanted to mention it here in this video was because it's just so different from the other fanfics that I have... Let me explain. Futaba's Unveiling takes place after the Futaba arc and follows her practicing a hobby that she's kept all away from the other Phantom Thieves. That hobby being belly dancing? Bet you didn't think that one. Why is this listed on TV tropes? Anyways, when doing further research on this fanfic, I found that the story itself can be found on DeviantArt, which led me to find some pretty interesting artwork from the creator. Not judging, but yeah, it's what I expected. Although, to be honest, they draw better than me, so there's that. The story is what you expect. Futaba takes on this dancing style alongside Anta Kamiki. Phantom Thieves get involved with trying to steal the heart of what I think is the dance instructor, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, the story exists. Written by CaptainBluestheProtoBreakman, the story finds Renamamia, leader of the Phantom Thieves, dying at the hands of Goro Akechi in the interrogation room. But he is then sent back to the past at the very beginning. Joker's memories of the past are dormant and rarely surface. The only ones aware of the time travel phenomena are the thieves themselves. Basically, a lot of the story elements and characters are thrown into this story prior to their initial appearances. For example, Zenkichi is Sai's partner despite being introduced in the spin-off game Persona 5 Strikers. All you need to know is that this story just has our characters going back in time to try to fix various plot twists and events that will eventually change their fates moving forward. What if Makoto Nijima was a Silver Age comic book character? Phantom Queen answers all your questions. Written by Vivav, this universe depicts Makoto as a Cape Crusader living in a world reminiscent of that of Silver Age comic books. As for the other characters like Ryuji, An, Yusuke, and Haru, they all go from being noble Phantom Thieves to Silver Age supervillains. Yusuke is the dreaded Da Vinci, who uses paintball guns as his main source of weaponry. Haru is a theatrical anti-villain who wants to take control of all of the city and kill every criminal in the city. In regards to the origin of Makoto becoming the Phantom Queen, like how Bruce Wayne lost his parents at the hands of Joe Chill, Makoto lost her sister Sai by the hands of none other than Shido. The imagination of these writers are out of this world, let me tell you that. According to TV tropes, 50 years have passed since the strange incident destroyed the world. Shadows have emerged from the underground, paralyzing the system and driving any survivors out of the cities. Settlements were built to keep the Shadows' threat at bay, while humanity got used to a more survival-oriented lifestyle. This fanfic was written by Blood Red Titanium 1022, and is an alternate universe fanfic retelling of Persona 5 that takes place in a post-apocalyptic Japan, where Ren and the PT must survive a world where shadows run rampant in the world's surface, and they must stop them without the aid of their personas. The story has concluded, and there is even a sequel that mirrors the events of Strikers. Written by Rogue Ebony, the story has Joker defeating the false god, but as a result, his friends were killed in the process. But fate grants Joker a second chance to make things right and save those closest to him. While it's quite similar to other fanfics that we've talked about prior, the bizarre choice that this story takes is that after Joker goes back in time, he finds himself in a whole new reality. One that basically gender bends most of the male characters. It's quite the bizarre choice given the fact that there was no need to change their genders at all, despite the fact that it's supposedly supposed to make an excuse for Joker to fall in love with the female versions of the male characters. Why can't he just be bi or something? But anyways, there's a lot that this story contains, so I'll just leave it here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to this channel. Also, make sure you hit that bell to get notified on new content.